Welcome. I call this meeting to order for Monday, February the 28th. Mr. Bertram, would you mind calling the roll for us, please?
Mrs. Scheibert,
Here.
Ms. Novak,
Here.
Mrs. Mulligan,
Here.
Dr. Urso,
Here.
and Mr. Moore is excused this evening.
Would you mind standing for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Is there a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
So moved.
A
Second.
Thanks, Anita. Any questions? If there are none, Mr. Bertram.
Ms. Novak,
Yes.
Mrs. Mulligan,
Yes.
Dr. Urso.
Yep.
Mrs. Scheibert.
Yes.
All right, moving right along, doesn't appear to be any public participation this evening. Tonight's consent agenda, is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
In a second, please?
Second.
Oh,
Give it to Kathy.
They were saying at the same time, so
Yes.
thank you.
pick one.
Any questions in regards to tonight's consent agenda?
No, if you could just go through the donations, please, I'd appreciate that.
I certainly will. We had two donations. One was from our local Walmart, and they donated supplies and materials in about a value of $800. So thank you to Walmart for doing that. And the second donation, we do not have a dollar amount to it, but an old friend of mine that I worked with in a prior life in the prison, George Holtzman, who is a resident of Middletown, collects fossils in his spare time for the last 45 years. And he donated some beautiful samples of fossils that are being used at our high school and middle school, I believe. So
Yay.
thank you to George for doing that for us.
Anything else needs highlighting from tonight's consent agenda? I take that as a no. And so, Mr. Bertram, would you mind?
Mrs. Mulligan,
Yes.
Dr. Urso,
Yes.
Mrs. Scheibert,
Yes.
Ms. Novak.
Yes. Was that our entire
I
agenda?
mean, I'm looking through here, that's why I'm paused right now. I
Yeah.
just made it to the next page. District committee reports. Good grief, yeah. Felt like I should talk slower tonight. And so, moving through the district committee reports, any committees have things to report?
We have a meeting set up for the DLT
Yay.
coming up, I think, March 22nd?
Yes, a good portion of that meeting will be focusing on getting prepared for the CCIP for the upcoming school year, so it'll be some technical work, but it'll be a big focus.
You should all have at your table the Butler Tech Student Success Newsletter. Always on the back of the newsletter is a calendar, upcoming dates. Inside of it, you can see the cafe lease schedule. Let's see. And then it looks like the next Middletown students that will be cooking, not just cooking, but planning, is Filipino food on March 23rd and 24th. And I also gave you all the Career Exploration Lab passport. It's an option for our 8th graders to go to Butler Tech, their 8th grade year. And what they do is they select 2 programs that they want to look at. It's got questions for them. But something that I really like for all of us is I know it can be difficult to keep track of all of the offerings at Butler Tech. But it's got a list of all the programs and then what campus those programs are held on or are in. So I won't read them all. I have extras if anyone else is interested in looking through there. And then I'm part of the Butler Tech Legislative Committee, and we will be going to Washington, D.C. March 20th, 21st, and 22nd. We're going to be meeting with Senator Portman, Senator Sherrod Brown, Congressman Davidson, and that's all I know of so far that's on the schedule.
Exciting.
Is this a question, is this a specific day the kids can go, or is there time set aside for them, or is it how does that work?
I think it's just arranged with the schools.
Okay.
So
it's like a
it's an
visit.
8th grade field trip
Okay.
that they would schedule. And one of our former students is part of the Butler Tech, Dorothy Tatum Watkins. So she is in this department where they do the career exploration. So, and the staff there is equally as talented. You know, they're just a great group that has really been able to engage with students and make it interesting. There's a former New Yorker who was in theater who's heading up the marketing for the department right now. So it's definitely geared toward 8th graders, and they're implementing a lot of different programs just to try to show kids early on like what's available to them. And then there's also information about the different campuses, like the Middletown Airport. So the different programs at the different campuses across the county. And then Coleraine is also part of it, and they're the only school district that is outside of Butler County that's part of Butler Tech. And some of the conversations that we've been having is just, you know, how can our kids take advantage of other programs going on at other schools? And I'm also part of the strategic planning committee. So we're looking at like what the future of Butler Tech and Career Tech might look like in this area. So we're trying to get creative, and, you know, if you guys have any feedback, just let me know.
Thank you.
I'll just share 2 quick updates for the board as it relates to committees. On your table, you should have a paper flyer. It relates to the Fair School Funding Plan. We have been conducting regional meetings across the state. I forget how many we've done, but recently had one here in Southwest Ohio last week. Just wanted to just give you information that the work still continues around the Fair School Funding Plan. As you know, the current biennium budget is just for 2 years out of the 6. There's still 4 years that we would like to see phased in. Really tonight's message just around advocacy for continued support around the Fair School Funding Plan. Mr. Bertram and I still continue to sit on the committees to support some of the work of the work group. Right now, we're just going around the state, just trying to advocate and continue to educate folks on this first 2-year phase-in of the entire 6-year plan. So there are some shifts that we still are exploring, some data that we're running out of the state level that'll hopefully influence some of our decision-making as far as advocacy for future legislation. And then also some of the studies that are related to the specific categoricals that really influence the funding model are being completed right now, should be done hopefully here in the coming months. But just more of information only for you that those regional meetings are taking place. So any information that we get, we'll make sure we share it internally so everyone has the updates. But that Fair School Funding piece continues to require advocacy here locally and across the state from different stakeholders.
Yeah, I have a question. In your travels around with people, is there any long-term looking at oversight of students under this fair funding, since there are going to be many more schools involved if this is passed? Is there any conversation about that?
Yeah, it's my understanding, you might have to fact check me on this, but it's my understanding in our original proposal, and I know it's been shifted with the current legislation, but it does call for an oversight committee, a bipartisan oversight committee, as well as practitioners sitting on that as well, as a funding model stays then. Last update I have for you is a follow-up from our Coalition for a Healthy Middletown.
Oh, sorry, before you do that, can I just add one thing? When we're talking about the biennium budget, that process starts in the fall. So with the governor looking at, you know, the budget items, then it goes to the House in January. But feedback is needed like now, and then especially in the fall when those decisions are being made.
The process actually begins in the spring with smaller committees, but yeah.
Thank you.
We'll
Okay.
hear we'll definitely start hearing about it in the fall, becomes more public at that point.
Okay, because I know Butler Tech is going back to Columbus in the fall again.
Yes.
And we'll be talking about fair funding.
Follow-up for us on our Coalition for Healthy Middletown Leadership Coalition that Dr. Urson and I have shared the past couple months. This past Friday afternoon, we had our first large-scale executive leadership coalition meeting. A lot of representatives from leaders across the community, so appreciate everyone coming out. Special thank you to Deanna Shores and Jackie Phillips for facilitating the meeting. We have activated 2 action circles, one of which are student-related, to an impact camp for middle school children over spring break. That's actually been in play now for a couple weeks now. The second action circle that we activated Friday afternoon is around homelessness across the city. There'll be some communications and a potential town hall meeting coming out of that leadership coalition that some folks will be facilitating that dialogue. So a lot of work to happen under that particular area over the coming months, but we have harmonized our efforts and there's some conversations happening. It's just more FYI to be out on the lookout for that particular group getting active.
Okay. Is there data being presented at the meetings, and do we have an idea of how many of our families or students who attend Middletown are living in a situation like that?
This was our first meeting as a leadership coalition. The idea is that the action circles activate themselves, and not everyone on the leadership coalition will be part of the action circle group, really pursuing solutions. They'll convene the right individuals and organizations in the community to tackle the problem statement for the action circle. And then they'll come up with solutions and then represent those to the leadership coalition for support, resources, and funding. So I can't answer that question. We won't be part of that action circle work group, but that'll filter back up to the leadership coalition over time.
Okay.
I had a question regarding, I know February was a rough month, and I know that we're building out at the high school the facility for the restroom and the storage space. I'm curious as to on budget, on time in regards to that facility.
Yes, we are on time. I'm not going to speak to the budget, but even with the weather conditions, we still feel very confident about delivery of the project in the spring. I don't know the magic in mortar and concrete, but we feel very confident. We're still running into a supply chain issue, but it won't delay the completion of the project. It's just around the delivery of the garage doors. We feel confident about the construction of the building still being able to be on schedule.
As far as the budget, there's only been one invoice submitted, so we're certainly on budget at this point. And
Good.
most of that was just preliminary work,
Good.
preparing for it, so
Good.
we should be in good shape.
Good. Any other committees met, have things to talk about? If not, then that would take us to board reports. And Ms. Schreiber, anything to report this evening?
No, Ms. Schreiber doesn't have anything to report.
Thank you.
I don't have anything to
All right.
report, thank you.
I was pleased to see the basketball team do so well as they did. They got pretty far in the tournament. It was nice.
Yeah.
That's all.
I too want to congratulate our basketball team. I was at the game in Lakota when they took on Sycamore, and the energy in the crowd, just seeing our fans and the community kind of rally around the boys, and then to see the game itself. Sycamore is number 2 seed and really good team, and we had I think he's a junior, just go off that night. What's his name? Do you know that? Number 28. I have his name on here.
He scored twice.
Isaiah Day had an evening, and they have some young players that just play really mature, and kudos to the coaches and the boys and the fans and the community that supported them. But then also just kind of going through, and I apologize, I always forget people, but I like to make an effort to just, like our bowling team, Dylan Wood, I believe, is going to districts again. Our girls bowling team is going to districts as a team. We have 4 swimmers, which, I mean, is a huge thing for our district. Austin Ferries, Avery Earls, Alex Laren, Clark Velasco. Congratulations to them, and good luck at districts. 5 wrestlers, Jacob Castillo was the sectional champ. Ronan Casanova, the sectional champ, that's big. Jay Taylor, who I believe is a sophomore. I'm going to mispronounce, I think it's Layman Chambers. Tyler Isabel, They're all going to districts from our wrestling team. They just had a really good meet over the weekend. Again, Isaiah Day was the high scorer at the sectional. And then I know I always forget our music department, and it's hard not to acknowledge the work that they do. I saw a bunch of photos on Facebook of the show choir, and they looked sharp and really do represent our district well, and the teachers that put in countless hours. And let me see, we had 2 students participate in the District 8 Honor Band this year. Seniors Edward Furlow and Ethan Waysong Ward. They auditioned for band and were chosen from hundreds of auditionees from Southwest Ohio. And on the 31st, we had our band travel to Blanchester High School for the solo and ensemble event, and we had students were finished with 10 superior ratings, 5 excellent ratings, and a total of 15 amazing accomplishments. And so from our arts to our athletics, a lot of people are doing great things. And I know it filters down to our younger students too. And it's just neat to see the good things happening in Middletown. And thanks to the adults that are helping to make that happen.
If I may take 1 second or a few seconds to something that stirred my brain when you mentioned the number of the basketball player. His number is 28. That is, in mathematics, a perfect number. It means that, and they're very rare, it means that the sum of its divisors equals 28. If you add up all the numbers that go evenly into 28, they add up to 28.
So he's destined to have a good night.
That'll be homework for everybody for next
Well, they're
time.
very rare. The next one's like in the hundreds or 200s. And they're-
And Mr. Stiles said he scored 28 as well.
He did? It was 28
did.
that night? I think you're right. He was right under 30. The last thing, I would just like to thank our faith community in Middletown. In the fall and through our year, we've gone through some difficult topics, and we had community support, and especially the faith community. I received a really nice letter from our last meeting to now from Town Church, and just knowing in our meetings when people showed up and expressed their support for our district, it goes a long way, and it's appreciated. And these types of letters, because it has been a dynamic little event of over and over and over again for multiple different meetings, and we appreciate the support and help that they provide to our community.
It's been 1 year since we lost our first grader, James Hutchinson from Rosa Parks. And in memory of that, I'd like to say that Mrs. Neely sent out a beautiful letter to her staff and sent a copy to us up here at the office. And I won't read it verbatim, it's her letter, but she did have 4 takeaways in here that I'd like to talk about. And she said, we are not alone in this work. Very important for us to always remember that. For many, we are home as well. For some of these kids, this is a safe place, and it is home. Remember that time is always short, value it, and then all the work we do, that it really matters. And I thought it was a beautiful message that she sent out to staff and to us, and I want to thank her for doing that. And again, James's loss hit me harder than anything I've seen, other than a few of my own. And I'd just like to end it by the way I did a year ago. James, you are loved.
Thank you.
Just want to, on a different topic, the CDC recently removed the face mask requirement for transportation. I think the board and our community have seen a number of school districts in the area transition away from those protocols. We have always followed the guidelines from our health departments. So I wanted to share with the board and our community that we too, here in Middletown City Schools, will transition to face masks being optional / highly recommended on our transportation vehicles to fall in line with our CDC requirements. Again, just to give you a quick update, I think over the last week and a half, I think we've had a total of 8 positive cases between adults and kids. I mean, we are significantly low. For the first time, Butler County is out of high transmission. We've dropped down to a lower level. So a lot to celebrate. And governors across the country are starting to drop their face mask requirements. So I just wanted to share that with our board and our staff and our community tonight. 2 very positive pieces. I believe in shout outs. Recently got invited to Miss Hart and Miss Potterine's class at Creekview Elementary. Every year we go over and check out the kids' digital books for Black History Month. I can honestly say that this year, when you walked in that classroom, Mr. Bertram, I mean, it was electric. The kids were fired up. They had student leaders that welcomed you to the classroom. And the digital books, no bias, but they were the strongest that we've seen in years. Definitely thrilled. Upset didn't get to see all of them, so we're hoping to return back here soon. But really impressed with the students' research, impressed with their collaboration, their speaking skills, the way they've integrated the technology and the way they showcase their digital skill sets. And more importantly, you saw a 5th grade class partner with a 2nd grade class to really take on this project to celebrate Black history. So I just want to shout out those 2 staff members. Very impressed with the whole experience. Can't wait to come back and see the rest of the presentations from the students. And last but not least, just a celebration for our school district, our staff, our students, and our community. On March 9th, 10th, and 11th, Middletown City School District is co-hosting the National League of Innovative Schools. It's a convening of about the top 125 school districts in the country. They'll be traveling here to Cincinnati, Ohio. We are co-hosting with Lakota Local Schools. We have some very deep work that we have planned for Wednesday the 9th and Friday the 11th, but I want to highlight the fact that on Thursday, March the 10th, our league members, roughly about 100 members from across the country, will be traveling and conducting school visits here in Middletown City Schools to celebrate our staff, the hard work and the wonderful things they do for our children, and how we are approaching educating children in a very personalized, innovative way. This is all about our staff. I've said this time and time again. Folks across the country continue to ask me about the work that our staff is doing, and they've always asked, when do we get to come and see? So I want to encourage our staff to just take a moment, enjoy the moment, step back, and celebrate all that you have done, and enjoy the positive affirmation coming from our colleagues across the country. More importantly, I hope that our district enjoys being in the spotlight and really showcasing what it is that we are doing for our children. We also, on the 10th, we have roughly 25 different community members who will be joining us on that convening for school site visits. Excited to open the doors to our school buildings, to our community members, to see what's happening every single day inside the walls of our schools. Again, this is about celebrating our staff, celebrating our school community and our children, and more importantly, showcasing Midi Pride and Midi Rising here locally and on a national level. So congratulations to everyone. I do hope you enjoy the moment, and I hope for our staff it does re-energize their passion for education and serving children here in Middletown City School District. Very much looking forward to the 10th.
Unless there's something else, is there a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Have a good evening.